Good Wednesday morning. Thank you for joining us here on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Jason Hackett. Let's get to your headlines. Terrible situation developing right now. 9 people are dead after a mass shooting at a school in a small city in Canada. The shooter, according to investigators, also dead. This happened Tuesday in Tumbler Ridge, which sits in the foothills of the Canadian Rockies. Police say 6 people were found dead at the school. Another died on the way to the hospital. Then 2 other people were found shot to death inside a nearby home that is believed to be connected to the shooter. At least 25 other people were hurt. Developing this morning, 1 person is dead after a house fire in Austin, Minnesota. That's about 2 hours south of the Twin Cities. The fire chief tells us they were called to this fire around 1:30 this morning. 1 person made it out and is at the hospital this morning. It's not clear right now exactly how they're doing, though. The state fire marshal is on scene investigating what sparked those flames. And in Duluth, the BCA is on scene investigating after officers shot and killed a driver during a traffic stop. According to authorities, officers tried to stop the vehicle for reckless driving around 10 o'clock last night. They say the vehicle sped off but was stopped a few minutes later. During the incident, shots were fired by 2 officers, hitting the driver, who died at the scene. Just in this morning, job growth is off to a stronger than expected start in 2026. The labor market added 130,000 jobs in January, much higher than the Dow Jones estimate of 55,000. The unemployment rate also edging lower to 4.3%. That's below the forecast to stay unchanged at 4.4%. This morning, a new exclusive poll shows people here in Minnesota are losing confidence in the Trump administration's immigration agenda. That poll, collected by NBC News, KARE 11, and the Minnesota Star Tribune, included more than 1,000 Minnesotans. Danny Spiewak breaks down those numbers.
According to this new polling, nearly 2/3 of Minnesotans surveyed believe that ICE operations have gone too far here in Minnesota. Let's take a look at some of the key results from the poll. On the question of do you approve or disapprove of how ICE is handling its job, 23% said strongly approve, 14% said somewhat approve, 7% said somewhat disapprove, and 56% said strongly disapprove. On the question of who deserves most blame for clashes and unrest, 58% said Trump administration, 28% said state and local leaders, 13% said protesters, and 1% said undocumented immigrants. But on the question of should local police cooperate with federal authorities to deport people, 38% said always cooperate, 47% said cooperate in some cases, while 15% said never cooperate. These are just a couple of the questions included in the survey about ICE and immigration enforcement. Tonight on KARE 11, we'll take a much closer look in depth at the responses to public opinion around immigration enforcement, and we'll look at other results from the survey throughout the week. For Sunrise, I'm Danny Spiewak, KARE 11 News.
Governor Walz says Operation Metro Surge could end in just days. Audrey Russo has a breakdown of those details.
Yeah, Governor Walz says he's cautiously optimistic that Operation Metro Surge is winding down after a conversation that he had with President Trump's border czar and chief of staff.
I'm more hopeful than I've been that they're going to wind this thing down.
Governor Walz believes that Homeland Security will claim victory by the end of this week. He expects Border Patrol and ICE agents will go home at the end of their 30-day rotation next week and won't be replaced this time. He says that would leave about 150 agents here, and those are pre-surge numbers. And going forward, the governor expects the feds and the state authorities will cooperate on investigating shootings by federal agents. Now, this comes as immigration advocates are accusing local law enforcement of working too closely with ICE. Actually, today at noon here at the Hennepin County Government Center, those immigration advocates are going to be holding a press conference to talk a little bit more about their concerns. Back to you.
Audrey, thank you. And new details from inside the Whipple building this morning. Lawyers who were granted access are saying they found incorrect phone numbers for legal counsel inside and difficult phone instructions. Detainees they spoke to also said they slept on the floor with no bedding. The lawyers got access after a lawsuit says a woman did not get to contact legal representation while detained. An update this morning, the acting director of ICE told lawmakers on Capitol Hill he will release the results of ICE's investigation into the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Todd Lyons was among several immigration officials testifying before the House Homeland Security Committee yesterday. When asked if he'd apologize to the families of Good and Preddy for being labeled domestic terrorists, Lyons declined citing his investigation.
Mr. Lyons, will you apologize to the family of Renee Good for being called a domestic terrorist by the president and his leadership?
No, sir.
Why not?
Sir, I welcome the opportunity to speak to the family in private, but I'm not going to comment on any active investigation.
Yesterday's hearing comes as Democrats and Republicans try to reach a deal on potential reforms to DHS. They have until Friday to pass a bill to fund the department or face a shutdown. Now, if DHS does shut down, it would affect agencies like TSA and FEMA, but it would not affect ICE and immigration enforcement, which received billions of dollars in funding in the Big Beautiful Bill. Journalist Don Lemon is adding a big name to his defense team as he faces federal charges for his alleged involvement in disrupting a church service in St. Paul. New court filings say Lemon hired former federal prosecutor Joe Thompson to defend him. Thompson is the former acting U.S. attorney and served as the lead prosecutor in the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme. He and more than a dozen assistant U.S. attorneys resigned from the office in the last month. Lemon maintains he was an independent journalist covering an anti-ICE protest that disrupted a worship service in St. Paul. Lemon has called the case against him an attack on the First Amendment. New this morning, we're hearing from a man who says he was detained, then released, connected to the search for Nancy Guthrie. Right now, authorities are not answering any questions connected to the case. Alice Barr is in Washington with the very latest.
Hi there. NBC News is working to track down more details in this quickly changing story. Investigators say the number of tips they're receiving soared after they were finally able to recover and release video from Nancy Guthrie's doorbell camera. President Trump among those urging the public to call the FBI with any information. In rapid developments this morning, we're hearing from a man who says he was the one detained for questioning in the Nancy Guthrie investigation, and that he lives at the Southern Arizona property state and federal authorities searched overnight. They would only say after the search that the investigation is ongoing. The man says he delivers packages in the Tucson area, but had nothing to do with Guthrie's disappearance.
All I know is that they show my in-law a picture of somebody wearing a mask or something, and they supposedly look like my eyes.
The Pima County Sheriff's Office earlier said they detained someone for questioning in the case in a Tuesday traffic stop south of Tucson, but would not comment on whether or not that person was released. It all comes after the FBI made public this disturbing video of a masked person wearing gloves and carrying a gun and a backpack outside Nancy Guthrie's home the night she went missing more than 10 days ago. The FBI director who visited the Tucson Command Center yesterday and shared this photo confirmed investigators are looking at persons of interest, but no one in law enforcement has said whether the person brought in for questioning is the same one in this doorbell camera video that the FBI had been working with private sector companies to recover.
And then go into their systems and actually excavate material that people would think would normally be deleted and no one would look for.
The images reveal what appears to be facial hair around the person's mouth and what looks like distinctive eyebrows through the mask's eye holes. You can also see the person's clothing and body movements as they tampered with and covered up the camera. Today show anchor Savannah Guthrie shared the video from her mother's doorbell camera, writing, "Someone out there recognizes this person. We believe she is still out there. Bring her home." As for how that video was recovered, a retired FBI agent told NBC News that even though Nancy Guthrie apparently didn't have a subscription to store the video, there are stops between the data going from the camera to the server, where pieces of data can be left behind and potentially recovered. And it appears that's what happened here. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Well, back here at home, State Senator John Hoffman says he'll be ready to return to the Capitol for the start of the legislative session on February 17th. Today, Hoffman says his return is rooted in gratitude and not obligation. Hoffman and his wife survived an assassination attempt nearly 8 months ago. The senator also expressed appreciation for the bipartisan outreach during his recovery. Hoffman said, quote, "In moments like these, politics fade and humanity takes over." It follows what he calls a period of recovery and reflection with his family. An update this morning to breaking news we first brought you on Sunrise yesterday. We now know the name of the 14-year-old killed in a shooting in Burnsville. The victim's sister tells us his name is Charles Moore. Burnsville police say they found him in the lobby of his apartment building late Monday night. He was taken to the hospital where he later died. Police say it doesn't appear random and they don't believe there's a threat to the public right now. In a statement to KARE 11, Moore's sister said in part, quote, "He was smart, laid back, advanced, and a true hustler for a 14-year-old. He loved his family a lot, would do anything for them. And he would have had a bright future, just needed a little more time." Right now, no arrests have been made. Stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.